Howdy, welcome back. I'm Steven and this is FWP Reviews. Marvel is back in theaters with their release of Black Widow, and let's just say, I'm stoked. It's good to be back, and it's good to see Scarlett Johansson finally getting that solo movie that her character should have gotten almost a decade ago. Seeing as this movie has become quickly the biggest release since the beginning of the pandemic, it's good to see the theaters start to slowly make a return when there were months during the pandemic when people thought they would never come back. The return is slow, and I wish it was all at once overnight and it was back to as big and as great as it was, but I'll take what we can get for now. Nothing has compared to that feeling sitting in the mildly uncomfortable theater chairs in front of the huge screen surrounded by people, and the Marvel logo is just playing. It's got the fanfare blaring. It gave me chills to the very core of my being. It's so good for them to be back. Black Widow centers around, you guessed it, Black Widow. Well, not just her, but some of her family from her past. Ghosts of her past are reappearing left and right as she's still on the run post-Civil War. That's all I'm going to say for now because this is the official spoiler warning. This is going to be a spoiler review. I want to get deeper into some of my thoughts. I've already posted a spoiler-free review over on my Instagram. If you want to read that, check it out. It's probably been a little while since the release. By the time this video comes out, we're a little off cycle, but the video is here, so let's get into it. My brain is kind of scattered all over the place trying to write this script and to now convey that to you, so I'll start with the more general and broader strokes of the movie and try to let that lead into some more specific lines of thought. Generally, I like the movie. It's good, teetering on the edge of great after just one viewing for me. It may shift a little bit up or down from there, but the first two acts are just great, and the only real fall off happens in the third act. The first two acts are grounded and they have strong themes and they have some really exciting spy movie elements, and the third act kind of gets too big for what the movie is. Too much bad CGI, not even just too much CGI, it's just bad. And the scope gets a little out of hand and it kind of loses that grounding on reality that we've had throughout. Naturally, the movie's compelling elements outweigh the bad elements in terms of the world we live in where Marvel is just hit. Since the weaknesses are fewer, let's just go ahead and knock out a few of the weaknesses right now. Like I said maybe 20 seconds ago, the third act is really where this movie kind of starts to break down and stop being great. There's a ton of entertaining, grounded, solid, down-to-earth action in the first two acts, and it's all out the window in the third act. I would liken it to the CGI fuckfest that was the end of 2018's Black Panther. I don't think it's nearly as bad as that in terms of the CGI, but I think the comparison between the first two acts of Black Panther and the third act, the CGI mess and it kind of fumbling the story, is quite similar to the step down we see in Black Widow. I also think what little we have of logic left in movies got left at the front door of the third act. It quite literally cuts away right before she's about to get picked up by Ross, and we cut to 2 weeks later and she's escaped. We didn't need any explanation or scenes for that, just whatever, you know? Weird. Blah, blah, blah. I know. I promise it's not all complaints. Let's get into some of the best this movie has to offer. The jokes, for one, land extremely well. The theater was all enjoying and laughing together, enjoying some of the well-delivered and written jokes. David Harbour helped deliver a stellar comedic performance as well. The performances for this movie all around were great. David Harbour blends this sort of notion we have of the MCU, the heart and the jokes. He blends them together really well in his performance, and it was extremely entertaining and amazing to watch unfold. It helps allow this sort of ridiculous, exaggerated character to become grounded and also really entertaining to watch. Rachel Weisz was great, but I expected more from her because of her caliber of talent, but I digress. Scarlett Johansson is great, no questions about it. She's got this rolled down pat as she's been playing it so long, and she just continues to evolve and lean more into the character really well. It's intriguing to see how she has grown throughout the years and how she applies that to the character and helps the character grow as she grows as a person. It's important to note that in many people's opinions, including my own, Florence Pugh is one of the top up-and-coming stars. The fact that they landed her for the MCU is not only a big deal, it's great. This continued and strengthening casting is incredible for the MCU. In this movie, she wows. To me, she sort of overshadows everybody else in this movie. It's not in the sort of way that makes you go, wow, everybody else is kind of lackluster. It's in the way that kind of builds off the movie and everybody else is able to build off of her performance, and it's clear she's the standout, but she's not so far removed. It's just obscene. It just makes you look at her as she's performing and having such talent and just go, damn, she's good at acting. Her character has the badassery and the heart needed for somebody who's eventually going to pick up the role of Black Widow in some way or another. That was a lot about the cast. What about the rest of the movie, you might ask? It's good. What else? The Dom and the family memes couldn't have become more popular at a perfect time. At basically the exact day of release for this movie, the Dom memes were becoming hugely popular. Funnily enough, this movie has a core tenet of family to it. We get to see Natasha on this path as she's sort of filling into this role of a family member between people she thought were just betraying her, as well as realizing what she has back home at the Avengers and the family she's built there. Natasha has had a long and rough life, there's no doubt about it, and this movie really helps showcase that, but it also showcases how she's made the most of it and done the right thing constantly and managed to build this profound sort of legacy for somebody that's basically just a human being, no superpowers or anything other than just pure fucking bravery and badassery. She is one of the least powerful Avengers, but that's kind of why she's the most important one in a way. When everybody else has kind of given up or has just kind of phoning it in Avengers Endgame, we see that she's leading the operations and keeping the team together as well as she can. This movie ties into that and shows the lead into that well. The timing of this movie is worth mentioning though. I think a lot of the conversation about this movie being released after all of Avengers Infinity War and Endgame is being compounded by the fact that it's been delayed over a year. This is sort of the first taste of Marvel we're getting, and it feels like we're taking steps backwards for some people. I can see how you see that, and I think it's still worth having the conversation about, should it have been released earlier before Infinity War and Endgame or after? And I think it's important to note that if you really think about it, a lot of the issue that people are bringing up is probably compounded by the delay. But I do think there's merit to it having been released after Civil War and before Infinity War. I think with some minor tweaks and some Marvel magic, this could have given a lot more weight to Infinity War and Endgame as a whole. Imagine seeing some form or some sort of similar form of the post-credit scene before Infinity War and Endgame. That would compound the weight and sort of give us an idea of what's to come for her character and allow us to let that arc actually shine, because if you look at the arc, it's important, but they don't really push it very far in that movie. It's not the biggest flaw this movie has, and there's arguments for both sides, but I think there's a good argument for how the movie could have been helped out by the release date. Funny anecdote before we move on to the next point. The post-credit scene, me and my friend were laughing for some reason because we thought that Yelena was going to get snapped, and at this point it's kind of funny because they've been retroactively snapping people in almost all of their content because they can, because it's a big deal. And so it's kind of funny, and we were laughing about it. Haha, she's going to get snapped, poor dog, kind of way, in a sort of morbid sort of way. And then when you see the name come across the gravestone, me and my friend are just dead silent, and we feel awful. And it's like, wow. You were just cracking up, and it's like, oh, okay, we're just gonna stab us in the heart one last time. All right, that's fine. The themes involving family and legacy in this movie and the MCU at large play out a lot in this movie. I always enjoy when the MCU takes the grounded approach. Everybody loves the exciting, big cosmic events, Infinity War, Endgame, Loki, coming next week. But the grounded approach is a part of what the MCU is built on, and a lot of exciting ideas come from that. It takes a lot more work and a lot more effort to make these kinds of things work, but obviously Marvel is willing to put in the work. We've seen it time and time again. I enjoyed a lot of the grounded approach that borrowed from this spy genre that people know and love, and seeing a lot of that introduced. We saw it lightly in Winter Soldier. We see it more heavily focused on, and it's a little bit leaning on these tropes, but it allows this familiar spy movie elements, and we can see what it's going for, and it adds another layer to this movie. It relies a lot on grounded action, fights, and car chases. I say grounded, they're not ultimately very grounded, but anything is grounded compared to this. I think the best things to come out of these spy thriller elements was the intro. Not the opening scene, but what followed. The intro, sort of credits are rolling and you're getting this music and this sort of vignette of images. This shows Natasha's life in a moving image kind of way with this beautiful song behind it. It's so profound and mature for the MCU to take this step to do something like that and allow that stylized genre piece to find it in its normal sort of MCU action movie. It portrays the nightmare and the horrific horrific elements of what all the widows went through, including Natasha. It was bleak and desolate and gives this incredible tone that carries through the first and second acts really well. Before that, we saw the strong, action-packed opening. It allows the start of these character arcs to begin, as well as beginning the movie with a real bang. Final note is the music. Lorne Balfe is becoming one of the best. Mission Impossible Fallout, now Black Widow, several under his belt. I can't think of off the top of my head, but I've been seeing his name pop up more and more in big releases, and I've been a big fan ever since Mission Impossible Fallout, and this score, again, has a lot of similar elements to Fallout, and he just knocks it out of the park, really. As of late, in my MCU video reviews, I have been doing this sort of fun little segment where I look forward and I talk about how this project affects the future as well as sort of related events. It's telling for me, and I'm trying to construe that with each project that passes, I'm more and more excited for the future. There was never a point after Endgame where I thought, well, maybe I'm kind of over it now. I was still excited, but you look at it and you're like, we're going to take a few steps back. It's going to be more relaxed for a few years. After COVID happened, I was like, okay, we're going to get some pretty tame MCU shows and the movies are going to be good. But they managed to keep hooking me in and adding these elements to be excited for the future. Quality of the shows or movies aside, there are these sort of inklings, like in the very beginning of the MCU, we're getting these big build-ups already, and it keeps hooking me in and bringing me back, and I'm excited to talk about that. So I'll quit mumbling about what exactly that means and actually tell you what I'm thinking about. Firstly, I hope Yelena, 1, appears in Hawkeye, and 2, appears in everything possible. She's amazing, and I really hope to see more of her in the future. Contessa Valentina is a pretty exciting prospect, as she seems to be setting up a sort of Dark Avengers or Thunderbolt. Seeing US Agent and now Yelena potentially being recruited is really exciting, and that future line of the more grounded side of the MCU is incredible, and I'm excited to see where it goes. Since this is more of a recount instead of a beginning of Phase 4, it's less about setting up the future of the MCU. However, something in a trailer I saw before this movie is setting up the future, and in Shang-Chi, the new trailer, in case you haven't seen it already, there's this really fucking sick looking dragon. And if that dragon is not Fin Fang Foom, or we're not getting hinted that Fin Fang Foom is going to appear in this movie or in the future, I'm going to be incredibly upset. But the idea that Fin Fang Foom could be anywhere near within 10 years has me so excited. Best character ever, need him now. Simple enough. Another thing I'm really excited for that's not really related to the movie, sorry, the continued star power and mainstream sort of celebrities that are appearing in the MCU. To keep with this sort of foolproof Marvel formula, we have to have new talent come in and keep finding new ways to amaze us while sort of sticking to what's familiar, but also trying to push the boundaries and push us into the future. Within the past few years, we've had Oscar nominee Florence Pugh, which she joined the MCU in this movie, as well as Oscar winner Mahershala Ali, Chloe Zhao, and Olivia Colman, all set to join in future projects, with Chloe Zhao directing Eternals, Olivia Colman in Secret Invasion, Mahershala Ali leading Blade. The talent is off the charts now. Additionally, we see Julia Louis-Dreyfus playing Contessa Valentina in this and Falcon and Winter Soldier. She's also got the most Emmys that one person has ever won, or she's tied or whatever, but she's got the most daytime Emmys ever won or something ridiculous like that, which is hugely telling for the talent this group is able to bring in now. The MCU sort of brought in these B-listers and made them A-listers, and now we're able to bring in this new talent and let them bring what they've already been able to do instead of finding it. And it's a new sort of horizon, but it excites me because we're alive and kicking. Everybody wants to be a part of it, at least for a while. I don't see the train stopping. Even the ones that haven't won a lot of super noteworthy awards, Jonathan Majors and Emilia Clarke and many others are joining up in the MCU, and it's huge to see this pouring out of talent. It's great telling for the future, I think. With that, I will wrap this video up. Overall, I think Black Widow was solid and I enjoyed it a lot. Next week, we'll be taking a look at Loki. I just finished my rewatch. I'm going to write the script tomorrow. Until next time, follow my Instagram at FWP Reviews 100 for daily written reviews about the newest movies. With that, this is FWP Reviews signing off. Thank you guys so much for watching. Catch you on the next one.